not going to share things with you anymore.
Oh, man. That would make this podcast real difficult. Hello and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Sam.
I'm Danielle.
And this is the podcast about sharing your weird media finds with your friends who don't know what you're talking about.
And I am one of those friends.
Currently, you're the only friend who will put up with this, Danielle, which is why we have this show.
Yes, because we couldn't get anybody else involved.
I think it would be a lot to ask to get people involved.
What do you have for us today, Sam?
Also, I don't know why, but in the last few months, I've been really feeling the post-apocalyptic vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So we did like Highlander 2, very post-apocalyptic. And so this week, I have brought you probably the quintessential post-apocalyptic movie. It is the 1985 film Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh my goodness. I've only seen 2 of the Mad Maxes.
Does that include the newest one, Fury Road?
Yes, and the original. The original with you, right? That was with you?
I made you watch Mad Max. So now I'm bringing it full circle, skipping Mad Max 2 or The Road Warrior, going right to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
So we don't know what happens in the second. Does it matter for the third?
No, not remotely.
Right.
So before we get started, I know that personally Mel Gibson is kind of trash. And I'm not going to get into the debate here about separating the artist from their art. I'm not saying whether you can or can't do that. I'm just going to sort of put it all aside so I can share with you some really ludicrous storytelling.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's do this.
First things first, I think you need a description.
That would be swell. Okay, it says, after being exiled from the most advanced town in post-apocalyptic Australia, a drifter travels with a group of abandoned children to rebel against the town's queen. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. This movie goes through so many tone shifts and like weird, like, oh, I know this movie. Oh, nope. Okay, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing this now. Okay, cool.
What makes a town the most advanced town in a post-apocalyptic Australia?
We'll get to that, but also I'm not sure since we only ever see one town in this movie and therefore by definition is the most of everything.
All right, let's do this.
There may be other towns shown in the other movies that might have explained this, but I believe Mad Max took place before the nuclear apocalypse, right?
Why are you asking me that, Sam? You know I can't remember.
All right. Well, anyway, the point is, this is post-nuclear apocalypse.
Okay.
So, anyway, the movie opens, black screen, some sick 80s riffs, and then an original Tina Turner song, One of the Living.
One of the Living?
That's the name of the song.
Okay.
I didn't name it.
As opposed to One of the Dead?
Or one of anything else. So, Tina Turner actually made 2 original songs for this movie.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So we fade in on a desert landscape from above. There's a trail of dust moving through the sand, and we come close to see a cart pulled by camels. The camera zooms over and it cuts away just as a plane, which was the camera until a moment ago, dips low and knocks the person driving the camels off the car. So it's like a metal car being pulled by camels.
Why are there camels in Australia? Are there camels in Australia?
It's a desert, Danielle. Maybe they imported the camels. I don't know.
That's not a common thing in Australia, right?
I have no idea. I mean, I know there are many horrors in Australia. I don't know about camels.
I don't think camels are very horrific. But...
Maybe they escaped from a zoo and bred, Danielle. This is all not relevant.
That's quite possible, actually. So I have another thought. So the plane came down. I just want to clarify. The plane came down and knocked somebody over.
Yeah, it's like a little propeller plane.
Right. I figured as a prop plane.
Yeah, it's like a 1-person or 2-person prop plane. And it comes down low and there's something hanging from the bottom of it that's used to knock the guy out of the cart.
So it didn't just run into the guy.
No. There's something that they use to kick him out of there.
I guess that's marginally better. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Wow, this is going to be great. You're upset about the camels in this movie. You're going to have so many questions about everything else. So we cut to inside the cockpit. And in the plane is a man in a pith helmet who cheers with his young son, also in a pith helmet. They're like matching couple costumes. It's really cute.
Aww.
Yeah. So the kid takes over flying as the dad climbs out of the prop plane and drops into the cart and steals it and sort of takes off across the desert as didgeridoo music plays throughout all of this.
So he dropped into the cart and like drove off.
Yeah, basically he stole the cart.
With
he knocked
camels.
the guy off. The camels kept walking. He dropped into the cart while the guy was left behind and just sped off.
Okay.
While he's driving away, there's a monkey, like a capuchin monkey, in the back of the cart.
Why are there so many animals in Australia?
Danielle, have you been to Australia? It's full of animals.
Yeah, but I don't know if these are standard Australian animals.
All right. Again, I don't remember.
I'm going with the zoo theory. I think that's completely valid.
Sure. But I'm saying I don't remember the second Mad Max really that well. If there was a monkey, maybe this is that same monkey in this movie. So maybe someone who remembers the Mad Max franchise very well can write in and tell me, does this monkey have a deep and rich backstory that I am unaware of?
Please let us know.
So there's a monkey in the back of this cart. And it starts throwing things out the back of the cart, primarily a pair of shoes and a metal whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find the man who is knocked out the cart. He gets up. It's none other than Mad Max himself. Now, just a fun little bit of trivia. Do you know Max's last name?
No.
It is Max Rockatansky.
Rockapansky?
Rockatansky.
Rockatansky, okay. I thought it was Rockatansky.
Like a rocket. It's never mentioned in the movie, and he's billed as Mad Max in the credits, but I just thought that was a fun name. Max Rockatansky.
It is a great name.
It's very 80s. I love it. So Mad Max picks himself up. I'm just going to call him Max. Just saying Mad Max all the time is exhausting. So now he walks barefoot through the desert until he finds those boots the monkey tossed out and the whistle, like a whistle that a captain has on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
So he plays the metal whistle as we fade to black. Welcome to the first scene of Beyond Thunderdome. Questions?
No, I already asked all my camel monkey questions and
planes. Okay, then I expect no more questions at all.
Okay, all right. I think I'm going to take a nap.
All right. So now we see a group of people entering a bustling city called Bartertown. It's your standard post-apocalyptic garb, crazy, complicated hats with feathers, lots of leather straps, face paint, lots of like very revealing clothing. So like cod pieces and tight clothing. This is like, I think, the movie that has the most style of the early Mad Max films. Like, this is the one that really established this post-apocalyptic aesthetic, I think.
Is this the most advanced city in the post-apocalyptic Australia?
Wouldn't you like to know?
You said there was only one city, so this must be it.
Well, you've really sussed it out there, Sherlock.
I was making sure.
All right. So it's all standard post-apocalyptic gear when a man in an umbrella hat propeller beanie thing on a bicycle rides up to Mad Max pedaling water. Max, however, pulls out a Geiger counter, and the dude and the water are just, like, riddled with radiation. They're absolutely off the charts, and the peddler quips, "What's a little fallout?" before just riding off, and it's like, oh, this town has flavor. So we cut inside a cave, so this city is, like, built into the side of a mountain or a cliff, so there's lots of, like, cave architecture. Mm-hmm. And there are people yelling coming through, and a short, bald man comes in. He's flanked by guards, so he's clearly, like, some high muckety-muck here. And I'm going to do my best to describe these outfits, because they are bonkers. He is wearing like this pole strapped to his back because he's short, and the pole goes right up to above his head, and just above his head is like a doll's head, like a large doll's head affixed to the pole with like long hair, and the guy's bald. So he's like he has two heads, one on top of the other if you're looking straight at him.
That's weird.
It's very weird. This movie has so much style. Like, I love the aesthetic in this movie is so much fun. They do a really good job of just like embracing how weird can we make these outfits?
I'm sure somebody had fun sitting down and drawing all these costumes.
Oh, absolutely. So now we cut to Max, who goes up to an official at a desk who's like, "Do you have anything to trade? What's your business here?" And Max says he's just looking for somebody. He needs just to go in for an hour to find this guy. And they go back and forth about if Max has any business to do or not. And finally, Max offers to trade his skills. And the man's like, "Sorry, brothel's full." And Max takes that personally and grabs him, at which point one of the mannequin heads, like, guard henchman guy steps forward and does, like, a bunch of weapon flourishes a la Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And Max pulls out a shotgun and just shoots the hat off the guy, so, like, feathers go flying everywhere. Gets a big hat with a big feather thing on top because everybody's got great hats in this movie.
Okay.
And he pulls another gun and points at the guy behind the desk and is like, seriously, I just need to go in. Let me in. And the man's like, all right, it seems you do have some skills. Maybe you could trade 24 hours of your life and we'll make sure you get back everything that's owed to you. And Max is like, sounds good to me. So the guy leads Max inside, where Max is first required to check a comical amount of weapons he has on his body, which is just like a bunch of guns and a crossbow at some weapons check station because it's the law.
So he's trading time to be able to enter into the city.
Yeah, he's basically trading his labor for getting all his merchandise that was stolen back.
Okay.
Makes sense to me. Labor is something you trade for compensation, so...
Yes, no, it makes sense. I was just making sure I was following the logic of the movie.
Oh, don't worry. It's all going to be irrelevant in a moment.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
So they move through the caves and they outside into a crowded area that's just stylish as heck. Like I said, this movie really has the aesthetic down. And briefly, the camera focuses on the pith hat guy who's hiding in the crowd, and like a weird hunch guy in a cape and a cane who's selling Max's camels, and Max is like, hey, those are my camels. But the other dude, the guy who's behind the desk, just like drags Max towards, like, don't worry about it. We get business to do. And he takes Max to an elevator, and they take it up into this sort of like, think like the Space Needle, but short.
Okay.
So it's like a big round room on top of a pole. A treehouse almost, that's covered in these sheer curtains, and there's some sexy sax music playing while they're in this room.
Is there always in 90s movies?
This is an 80s
the
movie.
80s movies? You know what? It went straight into the 90s. Okay. Like 90 to 95, there's a lot of sexy sax music in movies.
I'm not objecting to sexy sax music. It's fun to say. It's fun to listen to. So the person playing the sax is a man in a diaper, because why not? And...
That's a choice. You think they just picked somebody off the street? They're like, hey, you've got style. Come play this music for us.
This movie, like I said, everybody has an outfit that is a statement. But the diaper man is interrupted with his sax playing as Max enters the room. And so the official goes off behind a curtain and talks to somebody. And he's like, we found somebody. We think it will work. And the curtain parts and out comes Tina Turner.
Oh, she's in the movie
other star
too?
of the film. Yes.
That explains why her songs are in this movie, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. Tina Turner is the big name star of this film, next to, of course, Mel Gibson.
Was she in a lot of other movies?
I have no idea about Tina Turner's filmography.
Because I've only seen her in like one or two things. I'm just curious if she had a whole run I didn't know about.
It's certainly possible. This was maybe her biggest film, I think, or at least one of her most famous, for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so Tina Turner. And I'll get into what she's wearing in a moment, but she comes out and says, but he's just a raggedy man. And I'm loving it. And she's wearing like a post-apocalyptic 80s power suit.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, those clearly made it to post-apocalyptic society.
So it's a power suit, but it's all chainmail. There are no pants, so it's like a leotard. And it has like big chainmail shoulder pads.
I was going to ask if there were shoulder pads.
Yeah, that's exactly why it looks like an 80s, like from the waist up, it's 80s power suit. From the waist down, it's a chainmail bikini. It's great. So many good outfits in this movie. And her name, which I don't remember if they actually mentioned it in the, like, there are a lot of names in this movie that they don't actually mention the characters' names, or at least I did not catch them. But her name is Anti-Entity.
Anti-Entity. Okay. Do you think there's a whole behind the scenes footage of them trying to say Anti-Entity over and over again?
So I'll get into this a bit later, but everyone in this movie talks with an Australian accent, with the exception of Tina Turner. Uh-huh. And everyone also has like this sort of patois going on, where there's like, some of them are more pronounced than others, so it's kind of hard to tell what they're saying explicitly, but you get the gist of it.
That's a choice that they made.
So it's just like clear, like they have like a very strong dialect in this movie. Mm-hmm. And when we get to the group of kids who are mentioned in the description, they have probably the strongest patois, and it's sort of difficult to understand what they're saying at times. But again, you get the gist of where they're going.
Is it an actual, or is it just for the movie?
It's made up. It's definitely made up.
Okay.
100% made up.
At least they're consistent across the board.
No, because everyone's talking this patois differently. Anyway, so Entity inquires about what Max did before, and he's like, oh, I was a cop. And she's like, well, I was a nobody, but I was someone who survived, which made me somebody. And she's like, I built this town, I worked hard, I made this, and now look at me.
Does she sing in this movie?
Unfortunately, no. She doesn't do a performance in the movie.
Really?
But like her songs are featured.
Seems like a waste.
Sure. Again, it wouldn't necessarily be completely out of tone to have
So
a random
totally
musical number in the post-apocalyptic Mad Max film, but, you know, sure.
She could sing at the local bar or something.
She's the leader of this town.
So? She could do whatever
Just
she
go there
wanted.
and like, I'm doing show tunes in the middle of the apocalyptic Australian desert.
Okay, I've only seen 2 Mad Max movies, but both of them could have musical numbers, and I don't think I would have blinked an eye.
So again, I said it could fit. Like, they could do it. This movie is so tonally inconsistent and crazy. Like, sure, why not? It could fit. It could be just be so over the top that it would work. So yes, I agree. That is a missed opportunity, but also I feel like her character wouldn't sing.
Yeah, well, I guess points to them for keeping it within character in a Mad Max movie.
This movie knows who its characters are, Danielle.
Okay.
So she offers him some fruit as the sax music resumes, and as he bends down to take some of the fruit from the plate, all the guards attack. Just completely attack him.
Why?
Well, just wait.
Oh, sorry.
And Max easily, like, takes him out. He throws the plate at one of them, the metal serving tray of fruit at one of them, and he, like, takes him out, and he defeats them until a mannequin guy puts a rope, like a rope on a stick around his neck and catches him. And then Mad Max pulls out a knife from the handle of a spatula he had on his body.
He had a spatula on his body?
Because it wasn't a weapon, he didn't surrender it, so like his way of sneaking a knife into it was like an umbrella sword, but it's a spatula knife.
What? Who carries around a spatula?
This man, he's prepared.
Just in case he needed a knife inside of a spatula.
Just because he needs to sneak a knife in somewhere. It worked, Danielle.
It did.
You can't
Sorry,
argue with results.
I'm sorry, you're right. It worked.
So he cuts the rope off his neck, and he throws mannequin head guy out a window.
Does he die, or does he come back later?
Oh, he's clinging to the rim of the window and climbs back in a moment.
Okay, good. It seemed a waste to, like, get rid of mannequin head guy.
Mannequin, doll head, whatever. Yeah, he's great. I love him. He's my favorite. Anti-Entity, like, stops things and tells him, congratulations, you're the first to survive the audition. Okay. And so...
Okay.
Entity tells him about how she built Bartertown. She brought order and hope and civilization to these people, and she needs him to kill a man to protect the town. Like, she's like, I'll do anything to protect this town, including killing a man.
It seems like she's killed lots of people, though.
Wait for it. She's not done with her speech yet, Danielle.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry, Tina. Continue on.
So she'll re-equip him. She'll give him everything he lost back and more, but she needs him to do it because the man she wants to kill is also high up in the Barter Town hierarchy. And so it'd be politically suicidal for, like, Anti-Entity to challenge him directly or have him, like, assassinated. So she can't be seen as being involved in his death.
But people know that this guy, like Max, came into her place, right?
I think they've kept it sort of on the down low so far.
Okay.
And not, again, they're not hiding it, but, like, as long as she has plausible deniability, that's enough to, like, avoid having, like, oh, it was him, we met, we talked, but we didn't actually, I didn't tell him to do anything.
Okay.
Don't worry, Danielle, this is all going to be irrelevant.
I'm glad you're telling me then. Seems very important.
But it's important to understand why they're doing anything in the first place. So Max agrees to the terms and asks who's the target. And I think he says, who's the bunny? Which again is part of this like weird slang patois they have. And so Anti-Entity takes him to a periscope, but it goes down instead of up. And it looks into a room that's like an underground cavern that's full of pigs. Just so many pigs. And she explains that this is Underworld. It is where Bartertown gets its electricity from the methane from the pig poop. So this is what makes Bartertown so advanced, because they have...
Pig poop?
Power. Yes, pig power. They have electricity, which many other cities and towns don't.
Out of curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, methane is the thing. You could burn the methane gas to power turbines, I'm sure.
With enough pigs?
With enough pigs, you can power the world, Danielle.
I'll keep that in mind.
I'm sure it would work. I don't know if it's the most efficient way to do it, or if the pigs could be used more effectively as a food source or something, but there you go.
Maybe they use both.
Probably. So Entity points out the target, who is a dwarf who is riding around in like a backpack seat, who is being carried by this giant dude. Mm-hmm. And they are a unit. The little one is called Master, and the brains of the operation, he runs Underworld, and he controls the power and the methane to the city. And the big one is called Blaster, and he's the muscle. And I don't know if you remember the movie/book Freak the Mighty.
No, not at all.
All right, well then I won't mention it again, but it just reminded me of that sort of pairing of a person who is smart but physically weak with someone who is strong but not very smart.
Of course.
So they want Max to kill the muscle, but preserve the brains because they need him to help maintain the methane production. They don't like the fact that he's kind of uppity and he's kind of arrogant and he's sort of like muscling in to try to take control of the town. And with this muscle behind him, no one can really challenge him.
So there's not a single other person who could replace this muscle man if he died?
Well, I mean, he is like loyal to Master. Like they are a pair.
Right.
So there's not a muscle man who is bound to him like that.
Sure. I'll go with it.
Like, all they know is that if they get rid of the muscle, he can be easily coerced or intimidated if Blaster's in there protecting him. So they install Max in the pig poop factory as a pig poop scooper so he can get closer and scrutinize and size up Blaster.
A pooper scooper?
Yes. Thank you, Danielle, for saying exactly what I said.
You're welcome. But cuter.
Okay, whatever. This was even necessary. I should also point out that Blaster wears like this big metal helmet, almost like a diving helmet, so he is totally obscured from the neck up, but he wears like almost nothing from the waist down. So it's like bare chest, bare legs, loincloth kind of thing, leather straps across his chest. So, you know, keep that aesthetic strong.
Excellent. I appreciate your descriptions of the clothing.
It is probably one of the most iconic parts of this movie. Like, it's the thing that you notice the most is how awesome and strong the design is. So Max is down there scooping the pig poop, and he goes up to like approach Master Blaster, but he doesn't quite get up there because they're talking to someone else. And then Max is pulled away by a man who is called Pig Killer.
That seems very descriptive.
Well, he is a convict who was convicted of killing a pig to feed his family. So he got life in the pig scooping mines as punishment.
That's pretty hardcore.
Well, you know, that again shows how this is a post-apocalyptic world, Danielle. It's very hardcore.
I know, and the pigs are very important, central to their philosophy and style.
Or at least their power generation.
Right.
So, a little while later, Master Blaster go up to a man in a leather codpiece who is working on disarming a bomb in a truck. I don't know why there's a bomb in this truck, but there is. But he's trying to figure out how to disable it, and he's like, well, I can do this, I can do that. I can disconnect the battery. That'll work. And then Max walks up and goes, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And Master says, who you? You smart. And again, Master talks like that throughout the entire film in this weird, affected speech. I don't know why.
Because nobody else talks like that, right?
No one. He talks like a caveman throughout the entire movie. It's so weird. So Max tells him that it's his car, and he won't disarm it without payment. He's like, what would you give me to disarm then? And Master's like, I am in charge here. And he has like Blaster pick up Max and hold him by the throat. But Max is like dismissive, like, if you're in charge, why are you down here with all the pig poop? And Master's like, it's not pig poop, it's energy. And Max is like, well, it smells the same to me.
Valid
and
point.
so Master's like, to prove it, embargo. And he shuts off the methane production to Bartertown.
Just to prove it to this one dude down below, question him.
Pretty much, yeah. So he shuts down the power all goes down, and he waits, and then Anti-Entity calls him and is like, Master, what's going on? I thought we discussed this. No more embargoes.
Like, knock it off.
She's very much like over this.
Well, if he does it every time somebody's like a little snarky or, you know, steps on his foot or something, and he's like, I'm turning it off.
This is his like temper tantrum style. And so he's like, who run Bartertown? And Anti-Entity is like, you know who runs it. And he's like, say it. Say who run Bartertown.
Tina Turner, clearly.
And Tina Turner's like, Master Blaster. Master Blaster runs Bartertown. And Master like broadcasts this throughout loudspeakers throughout the entire city just to like prove that he is the one who's in charge here, who runs Bartertown.
So he has a speaker system down here too?
Well, apparently everywhere throughout the entire city. There's like a PA system.
Nice.
I told you, most advanced city in the post-apocalyptic Australia wasteland.
Yeah.
So now we see really why Anti-Entity wants him dead, because he's really very much pushing his luck.
Because he's obnoxious.
Exactly. So point proven, Max sets about disarming his car, but also sets off the car alarm by accident, which drives Blaster crazy with the noise. Like, he just freaks out. And then Max shuts off the car alarm, but blows his little whistle thing that also makes Blaster freak out, which is...
convenient.
Oh yeah, it's very convenient that he found that whistle the monkey tossed out of his car that was stolen.
Shoes and a whistle, just what he needed.
Pretty much. So after discovering the whistly weakness of Blaster, Max quickly skedaddles. He just leaves.
Did you write that down just so you could say that?
What, skedaddles?
No, whistly weakness.
No, actually, I wrote down skedaddles, but not whistly weakness because...
That's impressive. Good job, Sam.
Thank you. I'm actually pretty proud of that. The things I write down are not as good as the things I think of on the spot, unfortunately. This is where we learn that Max will have to challenge Blaster to a battle in the Thunderdome, because he goes back up to talk to Anti-Entity. He's like, okay.
Why?
So Anti-Entity is like, look, What you have to do is challenge him. You can't just go around killing people because that's against the law.
How would anybody know it was him?
If you killed somebody?
Yeah, what if he just, like, low-key killed him and then got his stuff and left? How would anybody know?
I don't know. I think Auntie Entity wants us to make a big public defeat to show that, like, she has the real power, or at least that Master and Blaster don't have the real power.
Well, she's not taking any credit for it, right? So she can't, it doesn't prove that she has the power.
It still destroys Master's credibility.
Sure.
If he is publicly shown to lose his muscle, then no one can take him seriously. No one will, like, support him anymore.
I kind of get that, but I also think that's a really convoluted way to make it happen. But okay.
Danielle, really, this is just an excuse to get the Thunderdome involved. Let's not quibble about that. Like, she could just assassinate him or something. It doesn't matter. But no, she wants Thunderdome. We're going to get Thunderdome. The movie is called Thunderdome.
Yeah, it really seems like they had the Thunderdome and then worked backwards from there.
Quite possibly. So she tells him, you'll have to battle Master in Thunderdome as per the law. It's a bout to the death where anything goes.
So why did they pick Max and not, like, anybody else?
Well, he's not the first person they brought in to do this, obviously.
So it's like a frequent thing that Master's Blaster, whatever, was put into the Thunderdome and then
Blaster has been put in the Thunderdome before, and he has always been victorious.
Okay.
He is just the latest who has apparently passed the audition, or maybe the only person who passed her audition to challenge Master and Blaster. And I'm sure Blaster has killed other people in Thunderdome who were just not part of Tina Turner's plot, but just regular disputes.
So this is just like a normal thing to do when there's a dispute, is you go into Thunderdome and beat it out.
That is the thing to do when there's a dispute.
Okay. Why are so many post-apocalyptic societies, why do so many of them have some kind of, like, epic battle royale as the thing that you have to do to settle all disputes?
Because it's awesome.
Highlander, you send them into the future. Hunger Games, you make children battle to the death.
Danielle, because A, it's awesome, but B, they have some weak justification, which we'll get to in a minute.
Okay.
So there's a big parade/party happening in Bartertown for some reason, with Master Blaster riding around on Max's car like the Grand Marshal of a parade.
Why?
Great question. No idea.
Is the saxophonist there?
Saxophonist is not there that I'm aware of.
Seems like a shame.
Well, I think it'd be too loud for her to hear his sultry sax tones over the crowd.
At least have him walking around in his diaper.
Maybe he was. I didn't see him in the crowd.
It's like, where's Waldo?
Yeah, basically. Where's diapered sax boy? So Max pushes his way through the crowd, is like, hey, that's my car. I want it back. And he climbs up on the car. And Master's like, no, it's my car. And Blaster grabs Max around the throat. And then he calls up to Auntie Entity to invoke Thunderdome. And she says, you know the law. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. You will have Thunderdome.
Dun, dun, dun.
So now we get to the catchphrase of Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Be prepared to hear that a lot in this movie.
Is that the tagline to Mad Max?
I don't know, but it's certainly the tagline to Thunderdome.
Did we ever see the guy in the airplane again and his kid?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay.
I wouldn't have mentioned him otherwise. So, again, I can't describe how much style this movie has. There's peppy music playing, everybody's chanting Auntie's name, and she has like a zipline chair that brings her from her Space Needle treehouse down to the Thunderdome box seat.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. And she's like, welcome to another edition of Thunderdome! Like it's a big old TV show.
Well, what else do you have to do in Bartertown?
Exactly. And so, if I haven't described it yet, Thunderdome is like a giant metal cage dome. So it's huge, it's metal, it's got crosshatch squares, and people just climb all up onto the top of it and are like hanging on the walls watching it, and that's how they're observing Thunderdome. So the weird hunchback guy with the cape and the cane comes in as the MC of this thing, is introducing Thunderdome. He's like, this is how we keep our fighting and disputes contained. While we have arguments, we settle them here so they don't spill out into chaos in the rest of Bartertown.
It says a lot about this movie that I forgot that character existed until you mentioned him again.
Yeah, I'll tell you his name at the end of the movie because I didn't learn their names until I read the credits. But they're amazing. And so while he's talking, a bunch of like ring girls, girls in bikinis or whatever, are hanging up weapons around the walls of Thunderdome.
I don't know what I thought you meant by ring girls, but that was not it. It's like actual rings? What are ring girls?
Like boxing rings.
I know, I got it as soon as you said the bikinis. I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
No, the ring girls from the horror movie.
I went through a lot of things in my head, Sam. One of the things was the horror movie. And I knew none of those were correct. I just wasn't sure what you meant.
Well, I'm glad we came to the right conclusion eventually.
Ring girls, go ahead.
So they're hanging weapons up like chainsaws and giant mallets, and halberds and spears and...
So you get like weapons in this Thunderdome?
Anything goes, Danielle.
That's wild. Okay.
Yeah. So Pith Helmet Guy is there in the crowd watching, so we see him briefly, and then Max and Blaster enter Thunderdome, and they strap in Max and Blaster into these, like, harnesses that have bungee cords attached to them, so they're, like, bouncing around Thunderdome, so they're, like, sprung up to the roof so they can jump up and, like, get to the roof and then jump back down.
It's such an 80s movie.
It is so 80s, and it's so goofy that they, like, bounce around. I love it. So they haul Max and Blaster back, like they're slingshots, and they're like, all right, go, and they let them go, and they fly at each other, and they collide, and it's just so, like, weird and goofy. It's like pinball, and they're just, like, fighting in midair, and it's so great. It's like a Cirque du Soleil meets clumsy fighting post-apocalyptic world.
I'd like to think the Cirque du Soleil saw Thunderdome or any of the Mad Max movies and was like, I have the best idea.
That'd be great. What if we took out the post-apocalyptic nonsense and just had, like, the Thunderdome? I'm in. So Max is getting his butt kicked at first. Blaster's just like bouncing on him, throwing him around, punching him, and Max drops his whistle. Oh no, his ace in the hole.
He should have more whistles on him. He should have bartered for some whistles. Would just a normal whistle work? Like if he put his fingers in his mouth and whistled?
Probably not, because they make a big deal about this whistle. Also, it's probably hard to whistle while you're getting your butt kicked.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you can try it, Danielle. Go get someone to beat you up while you try whistling.
No, I'm good, thanks.
All right, then. So Blaster grabs a spiked mace off the wall of Thunderdome, and Max manages to grab a chainsaw that quickly runs out of gas and is useless.
The sound of the chainsaw doesn't bother him? It's just the sounds of, like, the horns and the whistles?
Just the high-pitched sort of screechy noises.
Okay. Is there a chalkboard around he could use?
Hey, Danielle, if you're not using this seriously, then why are you even here?
Sorry. Chainsaw, runs out of gas. Continue on.
There you go. Max then grabs like a pike and cuts Blaster's bungees, so he's grounded. And then Max is also get his bungees cut by Blaster, but he does manage to grab the whistle, which incapacitates Blaster. And while Blaster is like grabbing his head and screaming, Max takes a giant metal mallet and just goes to town on him. Like bashes him across the head, knocks his helmet off, and as Blaster is lying on his back, completely defeated, and Max is going in for the killing blow, he hesitates because he looks at Blaster's face, and it's like the face of a baby, like a child.
Okay. Like an actual child? Or just a young-looking person?
Like it looks like a baby's face on an adult's body.
Okay. It's like the actor, is that how they actually looked, or was there some kind of
I don't know.
effect?
I didn't look it up.
I was just curious.
I have no idea. We can Google them later. But Max hesitates, and that's when Master runs in, and he's like, no, he has the mind of a child. Just look at his face. I'm so sorry, Blaster. And he's clearly so distraught.
Aww.
And then Max turns to Anti-Entity and goes, this wasn't part of the deal. But, like, it very much was. Like, he never said, I will kill your man for you, as long as he doesn't have a baby face or a child's mind. Like, no, that was never stipulated. You totally set up for this.
Should have asked more questions before he signed the deal.
Yeah, right? Read the fine print there, bub. So Master is clearly not happy about some kind of, like, clandestine deal. And Master declares he's going to cut off the gas supply, destroy Bartertown. You know, you've betrayed me. And then somebody shoots Blaster with crossbow bolts, and so he's dead.
Okay.
And Master just starts crying over the body of Blaster, and Max just turns to leave, but they won't let him out of the dome, like the guards won't. And then people start chanting, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Like, hey, Blaster's dead, 2 men entered, now 1 man needs to leave, guys, come on, let him go. The Anti-Entity is not having that. She jumps down to Thunderdome and yells, you think I don't know the law? I wrote it! And she's like, this man has reneged on my deal, and you know what the law says? Bust a deal, face the wheel. So apparently every law in this place is based on a pithy chant or rhyme.
Some kind of rhyme associated with it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like she's just making this up as she goes along. Like, bust a deal, face the wheel, cross the road, you're a toad.
It's things that you can you can yell. That's why. It's easy to chant.
You can chant. Yeah. You know, so I don't know how she with these laws, but clearly she's like, what can I yell at people and they'll chant with me? Maybe
she was using that group of abandoned children we haven't run into yet, and they got to write all of these rules.
No, they're much more articulate. That's not true. Anyway, so they drag in this giant metal wheel into the Thunderdome, and it's spinning, and it has options like forfeit goods, death, acquittal, and Auntie's choice, which is a heck of a wheel. Like, this is a great justice wheel if ever I saw it.
This is crazy. What?
It's a crazy movie. They force Max to spin the wheel and it lands on Gulag. So Gulag is the option.
That's not good.
Keep that in mind as I describe what happens to him. So we cut to the next day where it looks like everyone has gathered out in the desert to put Max backwards on a horse with a giant like paper mache fake head on his head and they send him off into the desert.
Okay.
I don't know how that's a Gulag.
Why is there a paper mache head? That means somebody like was like, okay, we got to get our paper mache head together because we're
somebody
sending
like
them
made
off.
like a mascot head like and put it on like there's planning that went into this. I don't know why any of it is necessary. If they just want to banish him, they could just throw him out in the desert. They don't need to put the paper mache head on him. It's so unnecessary.
There's probably a little store down there that specializes in paper mache heads for banishment, and they had to like
know
go
what?
and
They want to support local businesses, Danielle. I appreciate that.
Exactly.
Bartertown is all about local craftsmen.
he probably like bartered for something so that he could show off his artwork.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I'm telling you, paper mache head guy was like, hey, can I put my paper mache head on him, please?
Oh, advertising. Okay, I gotcha. Sure.
It's being sponsored by the paper mache head guy.
Yes, so many uses for all your not really gulag needs. So that night in Bartertown, the power goes out because there's like a fire in the methane plant, and they tell Master to fix it. And he's like, you run things now, you fix it. And so then they lower him by a rope into the big pig pens, and so he's like being trampled by pigs until they finally pull him out and he agrees to fix it. So they basically torture him into submission.
But with his own pigs.
Yes.
So he believes that he like runs this town basically because he's like the power behind the power.
He thought that, well, Master and Blaster were a thing. He was basically the power behind the throne. He controlled the electricity. He controlled the reason that Bartertown was so prosperous.
Right. So what does he benefit from like shutting it all down? Because then yes, it shows that he has power over this important thing, but he then is not in charge of anything if it doesn't exist.
I think it's just about sort of arrogance and vengeance. Like they killed his best friend, Blaster, who he loved like a brother because he was crying over the corpse.
Sure, but even prior to that, like he constantly...
That was just demonstration of power. That's like, why do we have trade embargoes?
Sure.
It's politics that's, doesn't, yes, it hurts both sides, but that's like the point. That's how these things work.
It's a fine line, though. He easily could have pulled himself out of a job.
Sure. And, in every trade war could destroy the economy of the countries engaging in it, but they still do it anyway because that's how people work, Danielle.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry that humanity bothers you so much and doesn't perform to your perfectly logical conclusions, but welcome to politics. Jeez. If you're going to argue about human nature in the Mad Max movies, then this is not going to work.
I wasn't trying to, make it a bigger, parallel to the larger universe. I was just talking about Mad Max.
But that's the same thing. Like, the reason he does it is just to flex. He's just showing he has power.
I do
There's
get
no
that.
other reason.
Okay, so he's trampled
Does
by
that make
pigs.
the most sense? Maybe not, but it works. He demonstrated his power.
He does.
Anyway, tortured by pigs, he pulls them out, he agrees to help them. Boom. Then we cut to the convict pig killer,
Oh, yeah, him.
who somehow has the monkey from the start of the movie with him.
Well, the monkey's just running amok.
The monkey's everywhere in this movie. I don't know why. And so he ties a water skin to the monkey's neck and sends him out through a pipe. And the monkey just heads off through the desert and somehow finds Max the next day. After the horse dies in the wasteland, how did this magic monkey find Max? I don't know.
Scent, Sam.
It's a tracker monkey.
Yeah, it's like track sense, obviously.
Yes, it tracked his scent through the desert and finds him. Either way, Max is grateful for the water and starts to hike back through the desert, but collapses a little while later. Oh no, he didn't make it. It was too late. Oh, so sad.
He died. The end.
The end. The end of the movie. Print. Cut. Out.
That's kind of funny, actually.
No. He's collapsed, but he's found by a mysterious person who drags Max back to a canyon where we find out she's a young girl, like 16, 17 looks like, and she lets out this lost boys call.
Are these the abandoned children? I forgot.
She lets out a lost boys call, and a bunch of kids who are living in the canyon come on out, and there's a river in the canyon, there's a boat, they have a whole lost boys set up here. So yes, these are the abandoned children. They have set up their own society. There are dozens of them.
If this wasn't in the little thing that you had sent me, this would have come out of left field for sure.
I know. So I want to give you at least a little preparation. But no, this is where the movie feels like it changes tone immediately. It's like, oh, we're doing Hook now, are we? And all the kids are dressed in, loincloths and post-apocalyptic wear. It's crazy. And they vary in age from older teens down to 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds or whatever.
Okay.
And so she's like, I found him. It's Captain Walker. All the kids drag Max back to the canyon and wait for him to come awake. They call him Walker. And there are just a lot of these kids, just like a whole society, and they're all talking in this very strong patois, and so they're kind of hard to understand. And they also brought the monkey, because why not?
So the monkey works for multiple people? Is that what we're saying?
I don't know who the monkey works for. It was with Max in the beginning. Then somehow Pig Killer got a hold of it and gave it back to Max, who's now with the kids. I don't know. The monkey's just there. So they cut Max's hair and they groom him while he's passed out. And then one of the kids steals some of his hair, but that never comes back. So I don't know what that's about.
What?
Or at least I didn't notice why he stole the hair. Maybe it came up later and I missed it.
You made a little doll out of it.
Something. And then Max suddenly comes to and he's very disoriented by the literal dozens of kids looking at him. And they're all chanting like religiously.
Could you imagine? You like pass out in the desert, you wake up and there's like 50 kids surrounding you.
Yeah, in like an Ewok village, it would be terrifying. Absolutely horrifying. And so they just repeat whatever he's saying. Like he yells like, who are you? They're like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I'm like, what is going on here? And they just keep doing that until a teen boy zip lines down to face Max as everyone goes quiet. A lot of zip lines in this movie.
I was going to say that. I love that there's so many zip lines. It's very exciting.
I don't know why. Like there were zip lines in Highlander 2. Was this an 80s or like early 90s thing for zip lines? I don't know.
Maybe. Listeners, if anybody has an exhaustive list of all movies that have random zip lines in them.
Yes, we'd love to see them sorted by decade.
We're thinking that maybe the 80s and early 90s had more than other decades.
It's certainly a possibility. Maybe they're like new and exciting then, part of the extreme movement.
Yeah, were they like super common prior to the 80s?
It's a mystery, Danielle. We may never know.
I'm sure if we Googled zip lines history of...
Danielle, gosh, wow. It's a mystery. It's lost to the ages. It can never be found out. Nothing to learn. So anyway, back to the not zip line part of this movie.
Sidetrack.
It's okay. It's good, zip lines. They're pretty gripping.
I like zip lines. They're fun.
Yeah, who doesn't? Apparently these kids love them. So Max asks the kids who they are and what's going on. And they're like, oh, he's testing us. Walker is testing us. So they all gather around for story time.
Oh, okay.
And again, they talk in this very weird dialect. So I'm going to try to sum up what I think the story was saying.
You're like, I'm pretty sure, 85% sure that this is the story.
Pretty sure that, like, the story is that there was the big apocalyptic nuclear blast that destroyed everything, and it was all terrible, but one person, Captain Walker, took a bunch of survivors and escaped in a plane, like a jumbo jet, but the plane crashed nearby, and the kids and the survivors found themselves in this canyon.
So the kids are the survivors?
Some of them.
Okay.
But then people started, like, missing the cities and not knowing what was going on and wanted to, like, find what was happening, so Walker took, like, all the adults and just left on a rescue mission. Mm-hmm. They like show Max like a Viewmaster where they show like, oh, it's Captain Walker. It's a pilot in some cities. Like that's their Bible. So there's a lot of weird religious stuff going on here.
So all the adults supposedly left and just left all the children behind?
Something like, I mean, I don't know if all of them left. It said like they took like 20 people out into the desert on a rescue mission, but there are literally no adults in the village.
Maybe they killed them and eaten them.
No, they didn't.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Are you positive? You only understood 85% of the story.
I'm very positive, Danielle. This isn't a cannibal movie.
You don't know that.
I do. Stop it. So anyway, what actually happened in this movie is the adults leave, but Walker's like, hey, one of us will be back, promise. And they've been waiting for the return of Walker ever since. And they think that when Walker returns, he's going to take them back up in the plane and fly them home to the city, so they call it Never Never Land. So it's very much Hook.
It's like, did they really call it that?
They absolutely do call it that.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Those poor kids.
Yeah. And so they say, oh, you're Walker, and they give him a captain's hat. And Max is like, I'm not Walker. And it's like, yeah, there used to be cities. There used to be all this kind of like stuff, but it's all gone. It's all blown up. There's nothing out there for you but a terrible place.
Do they actually have pictures of Walker?
No, not like actual photographs.
Oh, okay.
No.
Wasn't sure what was.
They have like the viewfinder of a generic pilot, and they just like projected that onto everyone.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a guy with dark hair is what they have.
Why do they think it's him though?
He kind of looks like him, and it's like the first adult they found in the desert.
Okay. Why not?
And so Max throws away the captain's hat like a frisbee, but then it like flies up as the wind picks up, and there's like this choir music and this big wind, and the wind chimes are going. It's like a miracle. The hat is flying, and then a kite is caught in the wind and is carried up, and all the kids are like, this is it. We're going home. They all go running off into the desert, thinking this is a sign.
Where are they running off to?
Max follows them, and the kids spill into the wasteland, and they go to the crashed jumbo jet and tell Max, we're ready. It's all loaded up. You can take us home. Let's go. But Max is like, no, and just walks away. Because, again, it's a crashed jumbo jet. How is he going to fly
Yeah, I
that?
was say, if they could fly it, they would have done that earlier.
The kids don't know how to fly. They're waiting for the captain to fly it.
Right, but I mean, when the adults crashed it the first time, if they could have flown it, I assume they would have fixed it and flown it again.
Maybe. Maybe they like the desert.
Maybe. But then why did they all leave it? And leave their children behind?
Maybe they like the desert more than they like the little canyon paradise with a river.
Or their children.
Possible. Anyway, back in the canyon, Max sits alone while the kids sort of argue about, like, whether they really have to go somewhere else or if there's anywhere else to go. And they're like, well, he may not be Captain Walker, but he came through the desert. So that clearly shows that we can go to other places, that we're not trapped here, isolated, and we can make it back to the cities.
So some of them believe that he's not Captain Walker.
They kind of figure that he's not Walker at this point, but they're still like, well, do we still want to go out and try to see if we can find where he came from and go, like, rejoin civilization, so to speak? Because they think that there's still, like, something out there for them.
Uh-huh.
And so the girl who found Max is named Savannah, and she's the one who's like, I'm going to go out there. I'm sick of sitting here. I'm sick of being in this canyon. I don't want to grow old and die here. And she takes a small group of kids and is going to leave. And they're like, no, you shouldn't leave. Max is like, don't go. It's terrible out there. The only thing you're going to find is Bartertown, which is a terrible place. And if the desert doesn't swallow you up, that place will.
Yeah, they seem like they're safer in their little cavern.
It seems like it seems pretty nice. They have water, they have food, they seem to be doing all right for themselves. Like, this is like a nice paradise.
But they don't know that. Grass is always greener, Sam.
Right, exactly. They think that they are missing out on civilization and their home. So as Savannah is leaving, Max pulls out a gun, like a rifle, and he shoots some warning shots at her, but she still just ignores him and keeps going. So then he chases after her and, like, catches up to her and, like, punches her out and just knocks her out cold. So Mel Gibson beating up a teenage girl. Nice.
It's part of the plot, too.
Sure. So he hauls her back down into the canyons, like, get the rest. They shouldn't go out there.
Does he think he's actually going to stop them long term? Because, I mean, if she wants to go, she's going to go.
Well, speaking of, the next morning, he learns Savannah and the rest of her group just left in the night.
Yeah, of course.
They just up and left. Yeah, exactly. Duh. And all the other kids are like, you gotta go get them back. You gotta go save them. So Max and two of the kids go after the runaways after they just take all the water they can carry. And they follow the tracks until they hear someone calling them. It's another one of the kids, like a 5 or 6-year-old, who had chased them through the desert and followed them. They're like, okay, welcome to the party, kid. And they just keep going. So they see the kids from the canyon, the ones who had run away, and they see that they have been captured by quicksand. So one of them is stuck in quicksand and slowly sliding over, and all the other ones are like formed a human chain and trying to pull them out, but they're losing. And so Max runs up to them and grabs the human chain and pulls it back. But no, the kid who was stuck in the quicksand, he couldn't hold on and he's dead.
Really?
Yeah.
That was rough.
Kid's dead.
Poor Ralphie. Hardly
Whoever
knew him.
it was. Yep. Gone. Into the quicksand. Which, I don't know how quicksand works in a desert that's dry, because quicksand usually requires water, but here we are.
There might be desert quicksand.
You know what? Someone should tell me that. I would love to know about desert quicksand.
Are there like underground springs that maybe cause quicksand in the desert?
If there was, wouldn't the sand itself be wet too?
I don't know. Maybe it's like wet up to a point and then the top layer is dry.
I don't think that would work.
I don't know how quicksand works. I mean, kind of. I know like the basics, but I don't know how it works in the desert, if it does.
Well, someone who does know should tell us. A hydraulic engineer or whatever.
We have a lot of questions in this episode.
Yeah, well, we don't know a lot, Danielle. That's the problem. So they camp out in the desert in the middle of the night, but they get up and they see that the lights of Barter Town are off in the distance. And so Max is like, well, that's our only hope. We have to go to Barter Town if we want to survive.
They can't turn around and go back?
Maybe they're out of water or something.
Okay, sure.
I don't know. So they head off to Barter Town. They sneak back in through the pipes into the underworld, the pig cage. And Max is like, we got to find Master. He's a little man, but he knows a lot. And they're like, okay. So suddenly they're not here for the water. They're here for Master. I don't know why. And they see that Master is kept in a cage in the pigs. And meanwhile, some of the kids have snuck into the pigsty area, without everyone knowing. And they start knocking off a few of the guards with the help of Pig Killer. And they break Master out while Mannequin Head Guy is distracted by trying to fight Max and the others.
I'm so confused as to why they had to find Master.
It's because the plot demanded it, Danielle.
Okay.
Max is like, he's smart. We need a smart guy to help us. And that's literally all the excuse he has. So this is one of the other parts where the movie gets so weird for me, like the tone. Like, this is this gritty post-apocalyptic murder movie, but suddenly it's like a Steven Spielberg movie or like Home Alone, where this group of ragtag kids are fighting it back against this evil people and like winning, and like this peppy music is playing. It's like Goonies or something. And it's so weird to have this, like, if this wasn't post-apocalyptic, like death and murder and stuff like that, I would say this is a family movie. Like, this is like a family movie type of situation.
Maybe they had two Mad Max ideas and they decided just to put them together into one movie.
They had like the family Mad Max and the gritty Mad Max. Like, hey, let's mash them up.
Australian
Well,
man.
whatever the case, It's kind of great that they have this weird family post-apocalyptic movie. I'm kind of digging it.
Sounds like something I would have watched as a child. I'm surprised they didn't.
Well, you still have an opportunity.
Well, I'm not a child anymore.
You're a child at heart, Danielle. We know this.
I am. That's true.
So anyway, as they're about to leave, they're discovered and the alarm goes off. And so they steal like a giant metal death truck. Like your classic Mad Max vehicle. It's, all sharp edges.
Oh, good. We needed one of those in this movie.
Yeah. But it's like a big truck, but it's on a train track.
Okay.
So
does it go through the mountains?
Why.
Or underneath the city or whatever, wherever they are?
No. They just rev up the train truck thing and they bust out through the walls of the Barter Town straight out into the desert, and they're just train tracks going through the desert, well maintained for some reason.
It follows actual train tracks after they bust
it's
through a wall?
on a train track. It's a train, but like with a truck instead of a locomotive.
Why does it go through the wall?
Because they drive through the wall. I don't know. Why
do the train tracks go through the wall?
I guess it's like they sealed this thing up in here. I think they've been using it to help power Bartertown. Like this is part of their power generation system. But I don't know why the train tracks were so well maintained that they could just drive off into the desert on them.
Okay, they're desert train tracks.
Look, the point is they need to get a train out into the desert, so they do. And like Bartertown just starts exploding. Like they cut through all the methane lines. There's fire and explosions everywhere. The walls are crumbling. It's totally wrecking the place.
The point is they needed to put a train in the desert.
Yep.
It was a requirement of the plot.
Not the plot of the action set piece we're about to get to.
Okay, trains in the desert.
So the train's going away, but there's chaos in Bartertown. An anti-entity gets everyone's attention. Like, hey, where are you going to go? There's nowhere else. Bartertown will survive. We can rebuild. Bring me back that little man and kill the others.
This would be the perfect time for a musical number.
No, it wouldn't. They've got stuff to do, Danielle. They got to get their genius person back.
Just saying.
A musical number here would merely slow them down because they have a chase to go on.
Well, you could have the musical number be set to the backdrop of more train action.
No.
Okay, but I think it'd be better.
Okay, well, you can think that, Danielle, and you're entitled to think that, but you're wrong.
I don't think I am.
I'm saying the musical number would be great. I think this is the wrong time for it.
So they're racing through the desert.
So begins the desert car chase scene that was clearly the inspiration for Mad Max Fury Road, which was an amazing movie.
Yes.
And so they saw this, they're like, hey, what if we just did that for the entire movie? And yeah, love it. Great.
Worked out well for him.
Yeah, so you haven't seen Fury Road, do so. It's great. So the train truck thing is off through the desert. They're being chased by post-apocalyptic buggies that are all decked out in weird things. Like one's got cow pattern all over it for some reason. Just weird post-apocalyptic buggies. And they're being chased by these people. And the dollhead guy is using like a handcart on the tracks to chase them. And somehow is catching up to the powered train using a handcart. So I love him. He's great.
Superpowers.
And so some of the people jump onto the train and start knocking people off the train. They knock Max off the train onto one of the buggies, and Max steals one of the buggies. I'm not going to be able to describe this epic car chase scene in any way that's going to be coherent or does it justice. It's something you just have to see, really. So I'm just going to sort of skim it and cover the highlight.
Okay. Duly noted.
But the best part by far is the dollhead guy who catches up to the train on his hand truck.
As one
on
does.
his hand cart. Yep. And he gets into one of the buggies. So somehow he's on the handcart so he could get to one of the buggies. I don't know why they just took him to the buggy to begin with, but here we are. And he harpoons the driver, who is Pig Killer, through the leg, through one of the doors, before Max comes up in a buggy he stole and shoves the buggy with Dollhead Guy off onto the tracks where it is hit by the train and explodes. And then Dollhead Guy is screaming and caught on the cowcatcher of the train. He's like, ah! And he's pinned to the front of the train on the cowcatcher as they drive off. So the kids and Master attempt to escape to the front end, the truck part from the back car of the train, and anti-entity's on there, and she grabs Master and disconnects the train cars, so she's escaping with Master. But then Max grabs Master and jumps onto the front of the locomotive, and they drive off, appearing to have escaped.
And all the kids are left behind?
No, they're all on the front of the train.
Oh, okay.
But oh no, Dollhead Guy climbs up off the cowcatcher and attacks.
The children?
Yeah, but they quickly push him off, and he's hanging off a pipe. Off the side of the train, and he's doing some physical comedy. There are these posts, and he does little chin ups, oh, there's a post, oh, hua, hua, And he's like dodging these things that are coming after as he's hanging off the side of the train. And then one of the kids takes a hacksaw and cuts the pipe and he falls off the train. But the train's over a bridge for some reason. It just falls off into this canyon. I don't know what's down there. It just cut away and disappears as he falls.
Does he ever come back?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Of course, he survived. Should have known. Sorry.
Again, this is very much Home Alone, where like the kids are like cutting the pipe while he's like, oh no, don't do that. And he like falls. It's like a cartoon. I don't know what's going on. It's great. So they all escape. Yay. But oh no, there's a barrier up ahead, just a bunch of dirt piled up on the train tracks. And it's a little kid in the pith helmet on it holding some guns. And he's like, this is a stick up. And the train pulls to a stop. And then he's like, I'm going to kill you all if you don't give me what and then he looks behind them and he sees them being chased by all the people from Barter Town. He's like, time to go. And the kid skedaddles and like runs down to this tunnel, like this escape tunnel he has. And Max and the rest of the kids and Master go chasing after him.
What was the plan of this child? That he just saw the train coming, was like, I'm going to rob the train?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kid's ambitious.
Yes. Like, had no context for why the train was in the desert.
Nope.
Why was he so far into the desert?
This is where they live.
Okay, sure.
So he goes in this little escape hole, and Max and the kids follow him. They go down to these series of tunnels where there's like a bedroom set up and everything, and his dad is down there. He's like, Dad, we gotta go. We're so dead. And then Max comes in and is like, oh, today's your lucky day because you have a plane and it's going to save your life. So he's like, get in the plane. We're all going to use it to escape. So
how many kids are with them?
Oh, at least like 8.
I thought it was a little prop plane.
Yes.
How?
Yes.
I have so many questions aerodynamically.
No, so they get on the plane and they're just like, it's too heavy, I can't take off. So Max cuts away like some nets that had a bunch of random junk on them, like all his stuff he stole. And they're heading off towards the end of the runway and they don't get enough speed to go off of it to take off. But as they're driving the plane down the runway, oh no, everyone else comes up in their buggies. It's Dollhead Guy, and he's got his buggy, and he's chasing them, and he's determined to catch up to Max.
So he not only got out of the river or whatever he fell into.
Oh, he got right back into a buggy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like crawled up. He caught up with the other people, got into a buggy, and like caught up with them.
Well, the other people caught up to him. He was like, the train was way outpacing Anti-Entity and the Bartertown crew.
So conveniently timed, he climbed out and happened to be seen by the buggies.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Dollhead Guy is great. So the plane reaches the end of the runway, which is a cliff, because sure, and turns around to try again, but the pursuers are heading right for them, and the pilot's like, there's not enough runway for us to take off. There's not enough runway between us and them. We're not going to make it. And Max is like, don't worry about it. There will be enough. And he gets out and takes a big truck and starts driving down the runway at the pursuers. So it's like a game of chicken with its plane right behind the big truck that Max is driving.
Okay.
And so Max is heading right for Dollhead Guy in his truck. And just at the last minute, he bails out of his car. His car crashes into Dollhead Guy, sending it flying and explodes just as the plane takes off with all the kids and everything on board.
There is no way a tiny little like 2-seater, even a 4-seater like plane is going to take off with that many people inside of it.
Danielle, it does.
I really don't think it does. I mean, maybe if they were very tiny children.
Nope.
No, weight-wise, it's very unlikely.
No, it's absolutely nonsense that this plane takes off. There's no way it could ever be able to hold that many people. But it does, so here we are.
Okay.
The plane takes off. Max is lying on the ground. We see Dollhead Guy's been crushed under his car, and his last act in this world is to raise a middle finger at Max before dying.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Sure. So Max is then surrounded by Anti-Entity and all her men. Entity just says, well, ain't we a pair, Raggedy Man? Goodbye, soldier, and just leaves.
Just like, that's too much effort. Peace out.
She's like, I chased you all the way through the desert. I've lost many people. My town is destroyed. And well, I guess we're done here. It's all right. Cool. Bye. You win. So Max is once again all alone. And we cut back to the group of kids flying off through their little plane. And they're going through this giant dust cloud. On the other side of this dust cloud, they find the ruins of Sydney.
Aww.
Half buried by the desert. What happened to all the other kids who were back in that canyon? Who knows? Probably still there.
So sad.
And so then there's some closing narration by Savannah, who's like, you need to listen and remember about how some of us got the luck and headed for home and here, and how sad we were about things used to be, and how we miss all the great cities and how great they used to be, but we can still remember, we still try to rebuild, and we remember the man that found us and saved us, and we like the city, not just for him, but for everyone out there who might find us. And she's like holding a baby. She's a lot older now, and there's a bunch of babies in the crowd, so clearly they're like rebuilding civilization here. And then we see like a superposition of Max walking through the desert as she's talking, fade out, the end.
So these 8 children rebuilt civilization.
There's like 8 or whatever plus the dad, and maybe more of them came over. I don't know. Maybe more of them saw the lights that they were lighting in Sydney and came to find out and join their civilization.
That's an insane ending.
Yep. So Max is still wandering along in the desert. All of the kids and the pith helmet guy and his son all escaped to Sydney and have been trying to rebuild civilization from there.
Wow. Well.
Yeah.
That's quite the movie, Sam. I don't know what to say to that.
It really defies explanation, doesn't it?
How many more Mad Max movies were there after that?
I think Just Fury Road
really?
was the next one.
It's only been
I could be wrong.
The 4?
I think so.
That's wild.
I mean, again, if I'm wrong, please let me know, because I have some movies to watch then.
I have more Mad Max movies I need to watch.
So as I mentioned, I didn't really catch the names of all the characters in the movie, like what was happening. And I don't know if I just missed it or they didn't mention them as much, but their names are really great. So some of the names are, of course, Max Rockatansky, obviously. Rockatansky, not Rockapansky.
It's funnier with pants.
It's not, because remember, safety dance. We don't need pants. Also Australian. So, Anti-Entity, of course. There's Jedediah, who is the pilot guy, and his son, Jedediah Jr.
Good, I'm glad they stuck with the name.
Yep. There's the Collector, who was the guy Max talked to when he first came to Bartertown and was like, hey, do you have anything to trade? Mm-hmm. Not a great name. There's Master and Blaster, of course. There is Iron Bar Bassie, who was the person with the doll head.
Okay.
Yep. There was Savannah, and the other teen boy who was the other one who first talked to Max. His name was Slake Mathirst.
Slake Mathirst.
Slake Mathirst.
That sounds like there should have been like a spin-off with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a spin-off name if I've ever heard one.
There was someone called Blackfinger. I don't know who that was. There was the guy with the hunch and the cane. His name was Dr. Dealgood. And there was someone called Ton Tattoo, and I don't know who that was either.
Really?
He might have been the sax player.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Sax player definitely deserved a name.
So yeah, that's Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I don't know what I thought. I thought there'd be more in the Thunderdome.
More Thunderdome, right? There was very little fun. There was one Thunderdome fight. I'm like, no, but the title did warn you. This is Beyond Thunderdome. We're not going to spend time in Thunderdome.
That's true. It did say in the title.
Right?
What an interesting choice, Beyond Thunderdome.
Right? Like, what do you mean beyond? Like, is there more Thunderdome? Is there a bigger dome around the Thunderdome? Is there a megadome?
Maybe they really were thinking like the Thunderdome kind of started all of the rest of the movie. So perhaps that was the thought process behind naming it.
Kind of. Like, the Thunderdome was the impetus for Max and Blaster getting their fight on. But also, like, it wasn't really. It was more Tina Turner as Anti-Entity who arranged everything. Like, she was the real person who put the plot in motion by taking Max and ensnaring him in this plot of her political machinations.
Sure, but Beyond Anti-Entity doesn't sound as good as Beyond Thunderdome.
It's certainly hard to say. Also, I really want Anti-Entity to write more laws.
I know. Those were good ones.
2 men enter, 1 man leave. Bust the deal, face the wheel. Like, what else you got? Tell me more. I am listening.
I kind of just want to watch that movie for Tina Turner in that role.
She's wonderful. It's great. And I should actually make a correction. They don't call it Never Never Land. They call it Tomorrow Morrowland.
Okay, well, that's completely different.
It's not. You understand why I got that confused.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, okay. But I know someone's going to tweet at me if I don't say that. So there you go.
It's too late. They already did while they were listening to the podcast. And now they're like, oh, man, I already sent it.
Well, whatever. I'm okay with that.
Well, thank you for sharing, Sam. That is an amazing choice.
Did it stand up to all the other Mad Max films you've seen?
All 2 of the parent
one
4?
Other?
I've seen 2.
Oh, that's right. Mad Max and Fury Road, yes. So, completely different than Fury Road. Like, Fury Road has completely different, like, this is by far the goofiest Mad Max, I think.
Yeah, it makes me want to see it, though.
It's kind of really fun. It's a really fun movie.
I feel like the movies are really hard to remember because the plot, there's like, that seemed like it had more plot than the other 2.
No, like, before I watched it just again for this, I could not have told you the plot of this movie. I'm like, there's a Thunderdome, I know there's a bunch of kids. I don't know why anyone's doing anything. Like, I didn't remember that Anti-Entity had enlisted Max to do this weird political assassination. I didn't remember why Max went back for Master. I knew he went back for him, but I had no idea why. I still don't know why, honestly.
No, there was no reason to get Master out of jail.
Yeah, I remember the kids existed, but I don't remember how they fit into the whole plot. And I've seen this movie like 2 or 3 times, so...
It's weird that they got Master out of jail and they did nothing with that plot.
So I think they just took him out because he's like, we need somebody smart to help rebuild society. So they take him to Sydney, and he's one of the people that helps like light up the city, is my guess.
Sure. But except that they went into the city, assumedly, to get some water or something.
Well, they fly there. Like when they're flying, they just happen upon it while they're flying to escape Anti-Entity and the Bartertown Bunch.
No, but I'm talking about earlier when they go into the city and break out Master.
Oh, yes. When they first go to get him, when they first go to Bartertown to get Master, like, I don't know why they did that. Like, they weren't thinking, oh, we're going to take him and go find the city and rebuild. Like, no, that was not in their minds at all.
So there's no reason to get Master out of jail.
No, absolutely not.
I think that's the biggest plot hole in this entire movie.
And maybe Max just felt bad for him or something, but they really, all they need to do was steal some water from Bartertown and leave. They didn't need to take a weird truck train into the desert.
Yes, they did, Sam.
Well, I mean, I'm glad they did because it was awesome, but the need is a strong word. So yeah, there you go. I don't know if anyone has any answers to the questions we have. Like maybe Max and Master had a previous history that we don't know about. Maybe something happened in Mad Max 2.
Yeah, we had questions about the monkey. If there was a history with the monkey.
I forgot about the monkey because he's completely irrelevant. He does all this stuff and then just kind of fades away.
Is the monkey in the airplane with them later?
I think so.
I would hope so.
I think he bonded with one of the kids and is like there, but I don't know. He just sort of blended into the background for me.
I'd be kind of sad if there was no monkey in the plane.
I'm pretty sure the monkey survived.
That's good that they didn't throw him out when they were trying to get the plane off the ground.
If somebody knows the backstory of the monkey, please let us know. If someone knows why that plane could take off with like 8 people in it, please let me know.
At least 8 people?
At least.
That's a lot.
So,
a lot
yeah.
of people.
But now you've experienced one of the great apocalyptic movies of our time, and even before our time, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I appreciate that.
Do you feel it, Danielle?
I do. I feel it in my heart and soul.
I think our podcast should adopt the motto, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
We should just like have a tagline every episode, apparently, because...
What's better than that, Danielle?
What was the one from Tremors?
Oh, there's nothing new under the sun, but under the ground. ... Well, if you have a tagline for us, you can send it to bookretorts.com.
Or you can tweet at us, Facebook, Instagram us at bookretorts.
But till next time, bye.
Take care, everybody. Perplexed by the term Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah, like what part of it is perplexing to you?
The beyond.
Right, like if they had lived their entire life in Thunderdome and had to move beyond it, that would make sense.
Yeah, or if it was just like a more prominent part of the movie, I guess, somehow. I don't know.
I think there was a genius marketing guy who's like, all right, the Thunderdome is clearly the coolest part of the movie and the most like easily recognizable and it has the coolest name. Let's just call the movie that and we'll draw people in.
But you think it'd just be Mad Max Thunderdome?
Then he's like, well, they don't really spend a lot of time in Thunderdome. So it's like, we're talking about more than just Thunderdome.
More
Maybe
than
it's
Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunderdome. You could say like Mad Max Thunderdome and then some other stuff. That's a bad title.
More than Thunderdome, I like.
Mad Max, more than just Thunderdome.